The introduction of a relatively small 1.2% transaction tax on gold bars imported from Switzerland into the U.S. has triggered an unexpectedly high level of interest. While the nominal cost of the tax is minimal, around $82 million added to Washington's annual $6.8 billion in gold imports, the broader implications could shake the foundations of U.S. monetary policy, global bond yields, and even the strength of the dollar. This small change in Switzerland's gold export policy could disrupt financial markets in ways that few would anticipate. In this article, we will delve into how this seemingly insignificant tax could leverage global market dynamics, turning a minor fee into a catalyst for far-reaching consequences. The 1.2% tax, small change, big impact. The U.S. imports a significant portion of its gold from Switzerland, an essential component in the Federal Reserve's reserve management. Switzerland's gold industry, renowned for its high-purity bars, handles a large chunk of U.S. gold imports, with over $6.8 billion worth of gold entering the U.S. each year. However, a new policy introduced by the U.S. government seeks to impose an additional 1.2% transaction tax on gold bars imported from Switzerland, targeting those refiners whose gold is sourced outside of the G7 countries. Though this tax seems insignificant in the grand scheme of U.S. finances, amounting to only about $82 million, it could have far-reaching consequences. The introduction of this tax coincides with a broader U.S. strategy aimed at reducing the trade deficit, which stood at $48 billion in the first 2 quarters of 2025. While tariffs on China and new incentives for supply chains based in Mexico are the focal points of the White House's economic agenda, the gold issue, initially seen as a minor side note, has turned into a political and economic dilemma. The gold supply chain and U.S. deficit reduction. The U.S. mining industry currently produces only around 180 tons of gold annually, which is insufficient to meet the Fed's gold stock needs, especially as U.S. imports from Switzerland have become crucial to filling the gap. The Swiss gold supply chain is uniquely positioned to fulfill the Fed's high-purity gold requirements, with Swiss refineries playing an indispensable role. Therefore, the imposition of the 1.2% tax has significant implications for both the U.S. and Swiss economies. Despite alternative metals like platinum or silver being viable substitutes, Switzerland's dominance in the high-purity gold segment makes it nearly irreplaceable. The tax on Swiss gold is particularly impactful because it reduces the U.S. reliance on Swiss refineries, and the Fed's reserve management may be forced to adjust its strategies. By imposing this tax, Washington is leveraging a small, seemingly inconsequential fee to force an adjustment in international supply chains that could shake the market for U.S. gold reserves. The political backdrop: Utah miners versus New Jersey jewelers. The 1.2% tax has sparked domestic debates in the U.S. between 2 key lobby groups: Utah-based miners and New Jersey's jewelers. Utah miners, who strongly support the gold transparency provision implemented in 2024, argue that maintaining strict origin transparency is vital for reducing the country's dependency on foreign gold. In contrast, the jewelry sector, particularly in New Jersey, has voiced concerns about the rising costs of gold as a result of this transparency rule, which could raise production costs and, ultimately, the prices of gold jewelry. This tug-of-war has now reached the Senate Finance Committee, where the balance of votes is heavily influenced by these 2 opposing factions. The Republicans, aligned with the mining interests in Utah and Nevada, are pushing for stringent rules that maintain transparency, while Democrats, backed by jewelry manufacturers in the northeastern U.S., are advocating for tax exemptions to alleviate the mounting pressures on gold prices. The issue has become a political stalemate in Congress, with both sides playing a game of diplomatic and fiscal brinkmanship. The Fed's dilemma: gold premiums, repo markets, and bond yields. The 1.2% tax on Swiss gold imports could have unintended consequences for the Fed's broader monetary policies, particularly regarding the management of gold reserves. The addition of this tax to the price of gold could push up the spot price by around $15 per ton. This increase, though seemingly modest, could cause a ripple effect, driving bond yields up by 10 to 20 basis points. As bond yields rise, so does the strength of the dollar, which could negatively impact U.S. exports and exacerbate the trade deficit. At the same time, the Fed's balance sheet and liquidity measures may come under pressure. The increased cost of gold could necessitate a greater reliance on the Fed's repo market to inject liquidity into the system, potentially triggering a rise in short-term funding costs and hindering the Fed's ability to reduce its balance sheet. This creates a paradox in U.S. economic policy. Measures designed to reduce the trade deficit may end up widening it, thanks to the secondary effects of the gold tax on the dollar and bond markets. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way. The Swiss response: leveraging gold for economic diplomacy. Switzerland, for its part, is using its gold exports as a strategic lever in negotiations. The Swiss government is keenly aware of the U.S. dependency on its gold refineries, as well as its vital role in global pharmaceutical production. The Swiss economy, small as it may be, is integral to the global supply chain for critical goods like mRNA vaccines, monoclonal antibodies, and petrochemical catalysts. This dual dependency on gold and critical pharmaceuticals gives Switzerland significant bargaining power. Swiss political leaders are pushing for an increase in the transaction tax revenue to fund protectionist programs. The road ahead, a complicated negotiation. As the situation unfolds, both the U.S. and Switzerland are preparing for further negotiations. The Trump administration is exploring a scenario that could involve mutual concessions, with the U.S. offering Swiss gold exporters tax exemptions in exchange for looser banking regulations or easier access to pharmaceutical products. However, such a deal would require approval from Congress, where a handful of swing votes will ultimately decide whether the tax exemption is granted. The political and financial ramifications of this decision are vast, and the U.S. faces a delicate balancing act. The 1.2% gold transaction tax, while seemingly a minor change, could trigger a series of economic and diplomatic responses that affect global markets, U.S. fiscal policy, and the dollar's strength. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way.